Howdy, it's a fresh day. Today me and Terry are working on putting the rear end together for the GTR. So this is going to be the subframe for the R35. This is a 370Z subframe. Currently the diff is stock, but we have a CAS two-way on the way. Rather than trying to buy a full 370 rear end when I knew I was going to want to do adjustable stuff in the future anyways, I figured it would probably be more cost effective to just buy the subframe and then buy the adjustable stuff and then build it out. But the downside to that route is usually you're missing a lot of hardware. So we're getting the full rear subframe put together and figuring out what we're missing. That way we can get hardware in time so that we can just bolt this up into the GTR, hopefully, and be good to go. A bit messy in here, but for the adjustable stuff, all the adjustable stuff is GK Tech. Which should be pretty fine. You can see these arms here are all adjustable. And then we've got upper arms in here. For brakes, we got OE Akibono. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the OE Akibono calipers. And then I got some brackets that are gonna allow us to use the Akibonos as a hydro and then use the R35's stock brakes as the main rear brake, which is really cool. Rotors aren't here right now, so we can't actually fit up rotors and calipers just yet, but they will be, and then we can at that point. Over here I have stock axles. These are brand new. I don't know how long they're gonna last, but they came as a pretty good bundle deal with the hubs. So you can see we got the hubs on the knuckles here. Cool thing about these knuckles is they have two mounting points for both like a hydro setup as well as your stock caliper. Rather than needing to use some kind of spacer adapter that has it, these are just built into the knuckle itself, which is really slick. So I also think we're gonna put the 240 fiasco in the same video, so I should give you guys an update on what happened with that as well. This is the throttle body from the 240. I'm gonna call out the manufacturer because I think it's pretty shit, but this is a CX Racing throttle body, which for the manifold that I have on the 240, it's a Freddy fake ready intake manifold, which uses a Q45 style throttle body, so there's not that many options available. But for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, maybe somebody can fill me in, the regular Q45 throttle body doesn't fit. This is the only one that does fit. It's what was also on the car when I got it. The car has broken down because the same exact issue happened in the past, and I thought maybe it was an old throttle body, and that was what the problem was. So I got a new one of the same throttle body, and the same exact thing happened. So why did I get stranded? Well, your throttle cable attaches here, and that goes all the way down to your gas pedal. And when you push the gas pedal, it pulls the cable and spins this thing, right? Makes sense? And when this thing spins, this flap is supposed to open and close, thus allowing in more air, thus creating power and thus making your car go. If I turn it, it does turn, but it won't, it doesn't, I can move it by itself. And you're supposed to not be able to move it independently of this piece by itself. So it's, yeah, you can see that it's right now. If I just push the throttle and then let off, it's staying open. That situation sucks because you can't fix it unless you have another throttle body, meaning that we needed to tow the car home. So good stuff. Yeah, this car's probably not gonna be running for a little while, but I need to get a new intake manifold and a new throttle body just because I don't wanna buy a third one of those throttle bodies and have that happen again. If you're a 240 Pro and you have any suggestions on a good intake manifold that accepts a good, readily available throttle body, let me know. This is what the full suspension setup looks like, minus rotors, calipers, and then the brake lines.
Not a lot on there, it looks okay. Not that it's not getting changed. Okay, lit.
All right, YouTube editing magic, fresh day. You didn't have to wait 2 weeks for car parts. Let's see what we got. Okay, so when we last left off, we were building the rear subframe for the R35, and I didn't document it very well, but we exploded out the diff. This is a stock base model manual 370 diff, or I guess technically that is right there. And after a little bit of a wait, so exciting, we finally got in the Kaz two-way LSD. This two-way diff is gonna allow us to actually lock up the rear very predictably, which is exactly what you want in a drift car. And then also one of the last pieces of the rear subframe setup is these nice, like sprinkle slotted two-piece rotors. Here I've got a nice actual Greddy manifold, a throttle body that hopefully won't leave us stranded in the future, all the gaskets we're gonna need. But other than that, we got some orders to pack, some things to take care of for the brand, but I think the plan today is get the subframe hanging back up again, get the rotors on, get the brakes on, build up the diff and get the full rear end ready to go, and then get the 240 running again. We also just got in a new shipment of photo mailers, so these will be perfect for getting orders packed, but check them out. Pretty sweet. Okay, so this is the new manifold, and this is the throttle body port right here. This is our new throttle body, and it is looking much nicer than the previous one. However, you're not gonna be able to see it, but the holes for this don't line up. This is actually quite a bit smaller than this throttle body. Luckily, the same company that makes this throttle body makes this neat little adapter plate, which is going to allow us to fit this throttle body on this manifold. You can see that that lines up pretty good for those there. And then there's 4 more holes that are gonna allow us to fit that guy on there. However, I don't have hardware for these 4 holes, so we gotta go get some. I do have some hardware here, but the issue that we run into is that we need something recessed that'll sit into this hole, which is why we're gonna need that round, like hex style head. Okay, so we're gonna need M8 by 1.25, and we really probably don't need that long, maybe 20 mil. We just need enough to go from this bracket to this right here. Yeah, so I dug around that hardware store for like 30 minutes trying to find something that had a small enough head to fit through here that was M8, but also sit fully recessed. These were the closest that I got, and as you can see here, it's not sinking in as it should. Maybe if you guys see that I'm doing something wrong, feel free to let me know after the fact. I'm gonna make it work as is, so we're probably just gonna take a drill bit and bore this out a little bit so that there's room for that head to sit in there, but not dig so deep that we ruin that lip that it'll sit on right there. This is the more or less full rear end for the R35 in a completed state. Diff is full of fluid and everything is connected. Yeah, looks pretty nice. Just missing brake lines and a second caliper. Where do I begin? Yesterday, Terry and I did Springfest, which is a local show out here in Seattle. It's usually the first one for the season, so turnout is usually really good and it's a lot of fun. But it was a long day yesterday. Today we're going up to Jeff's shop to work on the GTR. Today's a big day. That rear end that we built in the last couple weeks is ready. We're gonna get it hung up on the cherry picker and into the truck because we are old and don't want to try to lift a few hundred pounds with just 2 people. But rear end's going, coils are over. Jeff has been doing a lot of fabrication work on the GTR, and the 2J and the transmission are mounted in the car. So we're gonna go see that today. It'll be a lot of fun. Take you guys with us. I'm gonna keep this segment pretty short. We're gonna pack up the truck, get everything going, be on the road, and then we will see you guys there in just a second. So we made it to the shop. Subframe is on a little lift. old subframe is pulled out and it looks like it is going to fit. We're going to get it lifted up here and see if it actually does line up exactly as is. There's technically 3 points where it mounts usually because the transmission sits back here on the stock, but here, here, and here. And we should be using these two. So we will see in a second if it actually just bolts right up. The suspension setup actually is really similar across the GTR and the 370. And these are R35 coils, and the little bushings on the upper arm fit almost exactly, or sorry, rather on the knuckle. The fittings on the knuckles fit almost exactly, so it looks like it's gonna bolt right up.
What I'm gonna do is pull down on the back so to get it level.
I'm lined up over here.
Okay. Watch your fingers. Yeah.
Cool experiment. I think probably
Okay, so I did a really bad job of filming the other day for you guys about what all was done on the car. So I'm gonna go over it with you guys right now because it is quite a bit of progress. So coilovers are in all around. You guys already saw, crazily enough, a 370Z rear subframe directly bolts into an R35 GTR. So if you're an R35 GTR person, you want to go through the thousands and thousands of dollars to make everything else work with a rear-wheel drive drivetrain, you can do that. So rear-wheel drive drivetrain is in, full brake setup is on. It looks cool. This looks a little bit weird right now because the way that this bracket sits, I'm not sure. It's Z1 Motorsports. Not sure what how this was supposed to work, but you can see that there is a considerable amount of space between that rotor and that caliper. So we got some, where are we at here? We got some washers to push that back, and then we got in touch with Carbotech, which is a brake pad manufacturing company, and they're actually going to send us out some shims to actually move this back and then get the pads where they need to be, because right now as it sits, as soon as we press on the brakes, that piston's going to push these pads out so far and they're just going to fall out. I guess technically they wouldn't do to these pins, but they're not gonna do what they need to do. So any additions for the braking setup?
So I think it'll be okay. I mean, once that caliper is back a little bit and we have those, you could call it a shim, but
it's a like backing plate.
Imagine a brake pad without the pad material.
I don't know how well it's going to show up in video because it's pretty dark right here, but you can see this. This is the actual brake pad material, and then this piece right here is the backing plate that it is adhered to. We're basically just getting a few of these backing plates, and then Nikolai was suggesting that we weld them all together, which we can do, just so that they sit in here nicely. But yeah, after that's here, probably going to be another week or two. Yeah, those brakes will sit in real nice. So coilovers, rear end, some interior bits. Talked about the engine bay at all, but here it is. Jeff fabricated some really nice solid engine mounts. These are just on the like stock rubber.
That's not solid because it's on a.
It's on the rubber.
It's on the factory rubber mount, so you could use R35 aftermarket engine mounts if you wanted to, stiffen up the motor mount itself.
And he built these nice mounts for it, and he's also got the trans mounts under there. We'll take a look at those in a little bit once the lift is up. But yeah, engine is in the bay. It is looking pretty nice. Do you want to point out for these guys specifically, like what issues you ran into fitting a JZ into an R35's engine bay?
Yeah, so you can kind of see where cuts have been made. Some of this is still outlined in pink. This wouldn't normally be a problem depending on what manifold you're gonna run.
Right.
But if you were making something custom,
yeah, you could account for that.
You could put the wastegate up here, a little bit over more. It's just, you got to make the choice. Like when you're buying a pre-made one, you either modify where the wastegate is or you modify where the turbo is. That's a lot more work because if the turbo is hitting here, you got a lot of things to change. Same with the intake manifold. If you're running maybe a stock GTE, it might have cleared, or it still might rub somewhere else. But here it was hitting the back of the plenum. So we had to open that up a little bit. On the subframe, you can see where the pan, this one's, it's a notch a little bit more than you need to, but if you wanted to ever run a deeper pan, now you got more clearance. The only problem I really had is how high the steering rack is. It would have been nicer to mount the motor lower, just because it's at a little bit of an angle. The whole motor and transmission's at probably like 3 or 4 degree angle downward.
Right.
So not ideal, but you know, acceptable. Other than that, I mean, it's just like any other engine swap. It's really similar to like a 350Z G35 platform. Intake manifold's pretty close over here, but you know, you can have that problem on any chassis.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, you know, sending it, and like if somebody else hasn't done this before, then
You're good.
it's kind of hard to plan for things like that without just, you know, buying something and trying it.
Oh yeah, that's a little bit of noise, all right. Sweet. But yeah, Jeff's been handling the fabrication. He made this. This is the downpipe right here, yeah?
Yeah, that's the downpipe. Downpipe's all done.
Looks real nice. He's doing the dump pipe right now, I believe. Yeah, he's working on the dump pipe for the wastegate right here. And I'll show you guys under the car in a little bit. Some of the exhaust is kind of set up, but we need a couple mounts for the rear. The game plan is pretty much custom all the way to the mid pipe, which is a stock R35 mid pipe right here. And then we're going to run, I guess it's an HKS mid pipe, so it's not stock, and we're going to run an HKS catback. It's got the cool, you know, blue titanium looking tips. But the OE bumper has these really, really large cutouts. And I felt that it would look strange if we just dumped it out under the car. So it'll be really cool to retain some of the factory look with these quad tips with the 2J. Okay, so the shop we're in is Midnight Auto SPL. They're a lot of good friends of ours. I will probably touch base with some of those guys in the future for you guys so you can see who they are and what they do. But they have some pretty incredible builds. This one right here is Nikolai's S13, one of a couple. He's got a really cool Koguchi Power inspired S13 as well. That's really cool. I'll probably put something right here so you can see that build. It's really nice. But I wanted to show you guys this car specifically because his brake setup situation is very similar to ours, with the issues where he had the caliper not fitting over the rotor. So if you look here on this side of the caliper, this is a relatively thin rotor, same as we have for the 370 rear end on the GTR, and this is quite a large caliper by itself with the bracketry. You can see he's got a plate right there to make it work. The brake pads wouldn't fit, but you can see pretty clearly right here he's got multiple, not necessarily shims, but these are actual backing pads from brakes from Carbotech. Shout out Carbotech for actually allowing us to get some of these without the pads. Realistically, what we were going to have to do is we were going to have to buy full brake pads, grind them down to just the backing plates, which is such a waste of material, such a waste of money. So but yeah, that'll allow you to have this caliper centered over, and you don't have to worry about a piston pushing out one of your pads. Yeah, this setup is pretty incredible. It's a full like rotisserie restoration type thing. A lot of really, really nice fabrication work into this car. This is going to be a like full pro spec level build. See, it's got like a full Y-fab setup, and just the amount of angle on that is disgusting. It'll be a really, really nice setup. Also 2J. Also Nikolai's R34 over here. I think he's done some fabrication work to pretty much convert this front end, these shock towers, to I believe S14. So he's got S14 suspension set up on the R34. It's a midnight purple, very similar to our S13 hatch. Could probably do a whole video on Jeff's car. Jeff's a Lexus RC, as he said, but it is hardly that at this point. As you can see, absolutely gnarly 2J setup, ton of fabrication work. Look at all of these hard lines that he did under the car. This is like oil, I think power steering, whole bunch of other stuff to a dry sump setup. The whole exhaust is like this oval setup so that everything can be as low as possible. Yeah, looks insane. Obviously he's got a full radium tank, and all of the cooling is set up in the rear. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty incredible car when everything's all said and done. He's hoping to have it out this summer, so if we catch him, we'll do a video on it. Do you want to give the people a breakdown on what we got going on today?
Battery relocation into the trunk. Once that's in, we can put some of the interior together because it's kind of taken apart at the moment.
Yeah, we're gonna get the quick release steering wheel put on, stuff like that. Anything that we can do while the car is low, we're gonna take care of right now, and then we're gonna get the car up, show you guys how it looks underneath with Jeff's transmission mounts, and Terry will be able to get started on running that battery relocation. You can see the interior is pretty torn apart right now. It is a bit of a mess, but look at that. How often do you see a manual transmission inside of an R35 GTR? Pretty sick. So yeah, I'm just gonna get this bolted up. We'll be able to get the wheel on. It'll actually allow us to mock stuff up appropriately and see how that cluster fits that we did in the last video. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Get that battery relocated. We'll probably run along the passenger side. I really want to have as much wiring on this side as possible so that the footwell is nice and clear to do the driving. There we go. Nice.
So we came through, sort of see a little vent in the back, and then instead of coming in front of that aluminum where this whole piece clips in and making this thing not mount correctly, I went behind it and came out behind the seat where there's more wiring, and then that's all tucked up behind all this paneling, runs down through the floor, and then it comes out here. So that'll be the positive, and then we'll tuck the circuit breaker somewhere, run that back through the firewall. Powered.
So it's up on the lift. Jeff has the downpipe done, looking nice, and then the dump tube for that wastegate. We're gonna have to probably zip this up against the steering rack, but yeah, man, looks good. And then I didn't get a chance to show you guys, but this is the trans mount that he made for the CD09, sitting up there, nice and clean. Yep. Got the Dutch Bros. Got to do it every time we make our way out to Everett. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If it was interesting, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment if you want to see any part of the build specifically that we haven't covered. I'm totally happy to document it, but as you guys know, we don't do too much YouTube. So if you want to see anything specifically, leave a comment. Thank you guys again for the support. We will see you in the next one.